and welcome back to another episode of Unlocking Our Code podcast. I'm Lou, and I'm here with Devi.
Hello.
Hey. We have a good episode today, something that I had to do some learning myself, and we're going to be talking today about our nervous system.
Yes, that's a good one. This topic it's interesting, actually.
Yeah, I feel, I remember when I started learning about it and really understanding what it was, it kind of reminded me of the, like a connection board, and it all brings me back again to that movie of Inside Out. You know what I mean? Like our little, it's just like our nervous system is our communication center, right? Where everything gets controlled through there when it comes to like our, I guess you could say it processes all the info into our brain, right? Like our thoughts. It connects our thoughts to our emotions and our physical sensations. And so, and then it just sends out all these messages to how we're going to react physically. And I didn't realize how we can actually get stuck, you know, because stuck in some sort of like fight, because that's where like our fight, flight, or what's the freeze, right? I think the other one's freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze gets turned on through that aspect of which is the nervous system. And one thing I didn't realize, and I learned a lot, at least for me, is that we can get stuck in one of those states of fight, flight, or freeze mode. And we can like live like a normal life, staying in that, not even realizing that our nervous system is just like all the way turned on there.
Yeah, most people are living in a survival state without being aware. They just think that it's the norm. I mean, I know for a fact that I felt like it was the norm for me before I began studying the nervous system and working on my own nervous system. I was not aware that we had these different states in our nervous system and how they affected me on a day-to-day, until you actually do the research and do the work. Because if you think about it, the nervous system is, like you said, the command center of the body. It controls how we respond to life, from danger all the way to joy, right? Now, on the research that I did, it shows that the nervous system has a part called the autonomic nervous system, which this part works automatically. It's just on default. There's nothing that you need to do. It just does it on its own, kind of like when we're breathing. It just does it on its own, right? Just like that. And it works automatically. It's always like running in the background. It manages things like the heart rate, the breathing, digestion, body temperature, pupil dilation, hormonal responses. It's like the system that decides whether we are safe or we are in danger. And it has two branches out of that, right? Which is the sympathetic nervous system, which that goes along with the fight, flight, or freeze. Or it also has the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest zone, the zone where you heal, where you're rejuvenating, where you're recovering, right? But because we were raised, most of us, on survival mode, we just believe that that's just kind of like the way to live life, but it really isn't. And that's why this topic is so good to bring awareness to, right?
Yes, because it gives you an idea of where you're at when you react, right? So it's like it helps us by sensing, right? Like when it uses our senses to help us react. So like our senses, like touching, seeing, sound, stuff like that, like our 5 senses that we have. Or 4. Is it 4 or 5 senses? 6? It's 5? Godly. I don't even know how many senses we have. But it's like touching, seeing, like smelling, all those, right? So we it helps us definitely take those in, and then it helps us think and feel and react to everything around us that's happening, and it processes that information in our brain. So it responds by us moving or feeling or thinking, and these things just come out. And like Devi says, either you're in that fight, flight, or freeze, which is it's like a stressed or alert
like a
mode, survival mode, exactly, or you're in that rest and digest, which is that calm and relax mode, right? Based on whatever your body just felt with your senses, which I'm gonna find out right now if it's how many senses do we have. It's 5. Okay.
Yeah, and I have here that the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, or freeze, usually gets activated when the brain perceives danger, even if it's just an emotional stress. It doesn't have to be an actual event. It could just be emotional stress, right? It also gets when it does get activated, our heart rate speeds up. The breathing becomes shallow, our muscles tense up, the digestion slows or stops, blood flow goes to arms or to legs, and the cortisol levels and adrenaline fluids are heavier, like within the body, right? And this is when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, on a survival state of being. When we're in a parasympathetic system, which is the rest and heal area, it's when you feel safe. When your actual body feels safe, right? Your heart rate slows down, your breathing deepens, your muscles relax, the digestion resumes, immune system functions better, and you feel calm, grounded, and present, right?
Yeah.
But going back to our childhoods, right? Like, how were we raised? How were we taught to live? Were we taught to live in survival mode? Or were we taught to live in a healthier state of being, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, right?
Yeah.
So it starts at the beginning, right? In our childhood.
That's where it all gets programmed. Okay. And just like these 2 key modes that Davies talks about, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, they're supposed to work hand in hand, right? They're there to protect us. They're not there to screw us over or to like, it's not like one is better than the other, right? It's supposed to be like one turns on and then the other one turns on. It's supposed to have a good balance. It's not, we're not supposed to be riding one for our entire lives. But people do get stuck in these fight, flight, or freeze modes, and it keeps your nervous system like in constant. It's like being turned on constant alert. It's just turned on the entire time, right? And like Divi says, it's mainly a lot. It has to do with past experiences, with trauma, childhood trauma, with accidents that we experience, with emotional wounds, abuse, neglect, and witnessing like things like violence. All that stuff keeps us in that constant alert. Chronic stress is also another thing, like the ongoing pressures, like a high pressure job, financial struggles. If we're just constantly caregiving and taking on extra responsibilities, all these things can keep us in survival mode. And but yeah, trauma, it all starts, like, we love to take it way back, and it all has to do, mainly everything has to do with the childhood.
Yeah, the nervous system starts developing even in the womb. It's said that we a lot of the times inherit our mother's nervous system. So if our mothers were constantly on stress, on survival mode while they were pregnant with us, then when we are born, we inherit a lot of that, right? So
like our system's already in that alert.
Yes, because if the mom was constantly stressed, highly stressed, or chronic stress, or just going through severe abuse, or just having a very difficult life while she was carrying the baby, then that gets passed on to the infant as well, right? So when I feel like, for me, in my journey, becoming aware of this information has been like extremely important, because one thing is to heal, right? One thing is to heal your traumas, your past, everything you've been through, right?
Yeah.
And I heard this guy say this the other day on Instagram that said, if you think that healing is the hard part of the journey, you got your work cut out for you, because it's not healing that is difficult. It's staying in that safe place. What's difficult? Staying and living from that parasympathetic nervous system, from where you could feel relaxed and calm and safe, where you're just in that mode most of your days, right? Because in reality, the fight, flight, or freeze mode should only kick in when we're in actual danger, like a lion's attacking you when you gotta run. But imagine, we live 24/7, like if a lion's attacking us. Well, that's gonna have consequences.
Big time.
To our health, to our well-being, to everything that we do on a daily basis, especially if we're unaware that we're living from those places.
Yep, I know. I realized, I seen examples of what it feels like to be in constant fight, flight, or freeze mode. And I realized that I go through these things, just because I didn't even know this, that it just becomes a normal. It's like, it becomes like my personality, like who I am, right? Or that's just who they are. They're like, if you're in fight mode constantly, you're snapping at people, like your loved ones, people that you close to you, for dumb reasons, right? For something that later on you realize, oh, it's kind of stupid for even arguing about that, getting in arguments over small things, or feeling irritable all the time and not even understanding why, right? That's fight mode. Flight mode, I feel like I know a lot of people who are all constantly in flight mode, which is like they feel they need to run away from challenges. They don't really want to face difficult conversations. They rather take off and or they overbook themselves constantly so they could stay busy. And guess what happens? If that's where you're at, if you're always busy, you don't have to face anything, right? That's not someone that's like, oh, that person is constantly doing things. They're running from something, right? That's flight mode. Or freeze mode. I feel that I'm in freeze mode often, is feeling like numb or disconnected, just not being able to genuinely connect for some reason, and unable to take actions. Like in stressful situations, you just get overwhelmed and nothing happens. So I feel like that was my thing, was freeze mode and fight mode. I was in those two, and that was, to me, felt like that was just who I am.
Yeah, and it becomes like that's like a norm. That's how we don't question anything, right? Like for me, it's been one of the most difficult journeys to take. Has been being aware of my nervous system, calming it, being aware that's been activated. It's a everyday thing, because especially if you come from obviously a very dysregulated nervous system since childhood. Now imagine, now I'm 38, almost 38, 30 years of dysregulation. That has been my norm. I've made it to be where, being dysregulated is normal. Everyone does it. So now when I'm aware and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to live like this. Now trying to heal that, being aware, balancing it. Oh my God, it is such a journey. But now I feel that, yes, it's difficult, but you can become more mindful of when you're being activated, and you can use techniques, which we'll go over, to bring yourself back home, right? It's not that you won't get activated or triggered to go on to being dysregulated. I think that being part of being a human is just part of it, right? But it's being mindful, like, I just got triggered, I just got dysregulated, I need to take a step back so that I can regulate myself, because I know where I can go when I'm dysregulated. When I'm dysregulated, I am impossible to deal with. I know that. I am so aware when that happens and what my body does. So being very mindful, what does your body do the moment you get activated? The moment you go into fight or flight or freeze mode, what happens, right? So some examples are when you go into fight or flight. For example, for me, my heart rate starts beating faster. I notice that in my body, and I start gasping for air, like taking like longer breaths. Like I know, though, that's when my body starts doing that, or my eyes will start twitching as well. As far as like my mood changes immediately. I get super irritated, trigger with anything that you say, that you do. Anything triggers me. I get very reactive, like sometimes very sad. Like it could go very sad or reactive, one or the other, right? So it's being mindful. Okay, I'm activated in this moment. Let me take a step back. Let me not speak. If there's people around me, let me retract and really think before I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, because anything that I will say in this moment will be completely dysregulated, right? And I can hurt others in this state, because we all have the ability to hurt others, hurt ourselves when we are dysregulated, right? So, and when we are on a freeze mode, for example, when I'm on a freeze mode, I have no desire to do anything. I just want to be stuck in a room, in my bed. No one call me, no one text me. No, I don't want to do nothing. I don't feel like going out to the stores, nothing. I just want to be like in my bed, in my room, in my safe place. And that can happen for days. I could go on a week, a couple of days, even months. People live there for years if they're not aware that they are in this place, right?
That they're stuck there. Yeah, I can definitely see that, how I was, like I said, just writing on these for such a long time. And I think for me, it's been, I still see it, and these things still get activated, and it makes me feel like, I'm learning now how to, like we mentioned that we're going to discuss how to, balance yourself out and everything. But I find it really difficult. And I think it's because of that, because I've been in that state for so long. But another thing that I realize now is I can also not only be aware of myself, but I can also kind of see it on others when, I'm like, man, if they only knew, if they were only aware of what it is. It's not who you are. It's just a part of you it's just turned on, and it's been on. No one's turned it off. Nobody's like, it's like a switch. It's just been on. Like you've just been writing on that for God knows how many years. And so that's why, to me, I thought this was so important to share. If people have heard of I was telling Nando, I was like, do you know what the nervous system does for you? And he's like, because what were we talking about? I don't remember what we were mentioning, but I mentioned the nervous system, and he's like, yeah, I didn't even know that it can control you that much. I'm like, yeah, it's not there to hurt you. It's there to protect you. But we, based on whatever we dealt with when we were young, it just kind of stayed on, and it just never went away. And now we're just like always like, or I'm, for me, like I'm jumping, things like loud noises make me like jump. I feel like if I'm always like in state of panic when I'm like around a lot of people, like, that's just how it is. It's turned on. It's like on high alert. And so there's a lot of like, oh, maybe I don't like to be around people. I have like social anxiety, so you start to put labels on it, or I don't like to be in loud noises and loud places where there's loud music. And even when I'm like at a little party or something and they have the music super loud, it gets me, I'm so irritated and bothered. And I feel almost like a sense of fear, because I feel like there's no control. And so things like that I know now what it is, and it's not because I have social anxiety. It's just that's happening to me. Yeah. And that's crazy.
is that our nervous system needs attention, right?
Yeah.
It's not, because have you noticed that sometimes, because I used to tell myself the same thing, like, I don't like parties, I don't like big crowds, I don't like noise. But in reality, it's like, sometimes I do enjoy parties.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do enjoy loud music.
Yeah.
So is it me, or is it that my nervous system can't handle that, right? Like there's certain times that I'm probably had a tough week and I've been dysregulated all week, and then you take me to a party on Saturday, no, I'm not going to be well there. But then there's days that I've been regulated most of the week. My nervous system can handle being stimulated, right? Especially when we are dysregulated, we cannot handle more stimulation, because that's like, it's like very triggering to the body.
It's overwhelming
through more. So that even like makes me think right now, like, how many of us know of people that are always reacting to everything, right? That you are having a conversation with that person and they're always like feeling attacked, or feeling like just reacting, right? If you really think about that, is that the person has been living on fight or flight or for such a long time that their nervous system is extremely dysregulated. That's not really who they are. Yeah. It's the dysregulation in their body that just is reactive to everything and anyone and any little thing said about them.
They're just little ticking time bombs. It's just little bombs everywhere.
And it's because dysregulation can play very, very crazy in our lives. Like, it could just play in so many ways to it. Like you said, like, it feels like it has control of you because it is the command center.
Exactly, the command center
of the body. Yep. So if we're not aware that we have these, that our nervous system has these different areas that we can get dysregulated and we can get regulated, then we're just like living on autopilot, dysregulated every single day. Yeah. It's like the subconscious in a way, because has it ever happened to you when, I think we talked about it in another episode, where you're driving and you just kind of like forget that you were driving, but your subconscious took you to where you were going. Right? Because it knows your patterns. It's the same way with the nervous system. The nervous system knows that you've adopted fight or flight for 30 years, that is your norm. That when you wake up, in 10 minutes after you wake up, you better be on survival mode, because that's who you've been. If you are unaware that there's such thing as you being regulated, then you'll just live dysregulated. Right?
You'll be on survival mode forever. And then that's one thing that I realize is we label things. Then we label ourselves, right? We put little tags on ourselves. Well, I'm this. Well, I'm that. Well, I don't like that. Well, I don't like. But it's like you never really realized what it was. So it's just, it's really crazy to me. And I think, again, it's just so important. Some of the things that you guys, that everybody, I think, can like really understand it, or what is it that causes them, right? I did write some of the things down that were, I think, stood out the most for me, right, when it comes to what causes our nervous system to be stuck on this fight, flight, or freeze, right? So some of the things, and then I'll let you share, but it's like definitely unresolved trauma. So childhood abuse, neglect, witnessing violence, that would be considered unresolved trauma. Chronic stress, again, the high pressure jobs, the financial struggles that we can be going through, caregiving responsibilities, lack of safety, living in an unstable environment, abusive relationships, unsafe neighborhoods. If you grew up in anything like that kept you kind of like on alert mode all the time. Repressed emotions, suppressing or avoiding feelings like anger, fear, sadness, all that can keep you being a perfectionist or perfectionism, or in a state where you have these high expectations that are constantly striving to meet unrealistic standards. Definitely emotional neglect, again, or abandonment, growing up in environments where emotional needs were ignored or you were dismissed. Lack of boundaries, saying yes to everyone and everything, and always overextending yourself puts you like in survival mode. You're just kind of like, you're just running on empty, but you're just keep saying yes to everything and to everyone, And definitely environmental triggers, like living in noisy, chaotic environments. And I think for sure, like learned patterns. Growing up in a household where stress and anxiety were constantly present. And I think it goes back to even like being while you were in the womb and your mom is going through these things. I could definitely see how that can get passed on, you know, as a baby to and then that's just becomes part of who you are. So yeah, I could definitely see, you know, how you mentioned about when a mother is carrying a baby and she's going through these things, how it can definitely affect the baby. And then that just kind of becoming part of like the baby's nervous system, you know, because yeah, all these things that, I mean, and I'm sure there's so many more of the things that could have caused it. But these are some of the things that I felt like kind of were like relatable with me. And then I could see how, you know, if any of the listeners are realizing like, hey, you know, I lived that, or that was part of my childhood, how that could maybe be affecting you now and you don't really realize it. I feel also that I would have never have known these things, like if it wasn't for me taking the time to learn how it affects us now, like, right? And understanding that we can be in a constant state of alert, you know. One of the things that I feel like I'm always exhausted in the morning, even if I feel like I got a good full night's rest, I feel exhausted. Like, how is that, you know, how could that possibly be? Or I feel super overwhelmed. Like if I have I look at my to-do list and I feel so overwhelmed that I just freeze. Like I don't even know where to go, what to do, you know? And like I'm always thinking, oh, my ADD, you know? But I can see how like a never ending to-do list is super overwhelming for me. And I'm constantly worried about like, you know, if I do this, how is this going to go wrong? If I do that, how is that going to affect this one? How, you know, I'm always worried. I'm never really always waiting for the next problem because that's not how I think, but I see how some people are always like, well, what's next? What's going to happen next? You know, so I feel like that's super chronic stress and it's a constant state of alert. I think that happens to me a lot. And I definitely stuck in survival mode sometimes when I feel like I'm running on empty. I'm not doing this as much anymore, but it was definitely like an emotional burnout when I putting everybody else's needs before mine, saying yes to everybody, to everything, because I don't want to let anybody down, you know, and never really stopping to ask for help. Like that was another sign of me being like in survival mode all the time, right? But then realizing also that all these things can affect you physically, like when you are constantly in fight, flight, or freeze mode, like the stomach aches, God knows why, you know, just unexplainable, or the random headaches and the muscle tension, always being super tense, right? Never understanding like why, you know? Yeah. And that's just like the physical symptoms of it. So all these things that I had to kind of like find out and then just kind of pinpoint for myself and realized, holy shit, like this is really affecting me, you know? It was like eye-opening big time.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that. Definitely, like, once we go back to childhood, it's like we've been programmed to just live in these states, right? We've been programmed to live in a state of survival. I mean, who really taught us to live safe, to live relaxed?
Yeah.
At least that wasn't like in my case, and I feel like for a lot of people it wasn't their case, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can't change how we were brought up or what happened to our mothers when we were being carried and all that, but we could heal our nervous systems as adults now. Now we have the opportunity to do that, right? To understand what does happen to us if we continue to live on survival mode, if we continue 10 years from now, 15 years from now, what would happen, right? Disease is going to happen. I mean, how will our lives look if I continue to live on survival? A lot of the financial problems I also learned is that they come from us living in a dysregulated system, because someone that is dysregulated constantly 24/7 cannot manifest wealth. Because where is the wealth going to come when we are so blocked and so stressed and on survival mode, right? On survival means you're lacking. You're lacking abundance. You're lacking love. You're lacking joy. We're just constantly thinking of everything that we lack. But healing the nervous system not only heals you, your life, it heals the wealth, it heals abundance, it heals the level of love and the level of joy that you can feel. Because it's not that you can't feel happiness or joy, right? It's, can our nervous system handle feeling joy and happiness and wealth? You can have $1 million in front of you, inherited, but if your system does not feel safe with $1 million, you will run through that money in that year because your nervous system says money is dangerous, right? Love is dangerous. Run from the love of your life. That's something I experienced within my nervous system when I began being in a relationship with my husband. Is my nervous system used to tell me, leave him, run because he's going to hurt you. And it's still thoughts that I battled with through this day. To this day, my nervous system will still say things like that. But now I'm mindful enough to understand that they're just thoughts, you know, because I was programmed to think this way, right? So it's like being very mindful of how our nervous system affects so many areas in our life. It's not just health, and yeah, that's a big part, but it's everything. It's financially, it's love, joy, happiness. If your nervous system cannot handle being touched, you know, you will reject love. If your nervous system cannot handle having a safe man because all you've known is unhealthy men, you're going to reject the unhealthy man that's in front of you because your nervous system doesn't know how to handle a healthy masculine.
Or the same with men.
Or the opposite
with women. With a woman that's healed and you know.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, they won't know what to do with her.
No. They're
it would
like,
be too much.
What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's super important that we get educated on this because your nervous system, if it's your command center to everything, how important is it to heal that part of us, right? And also, one of the things I wanted to touch on is that I had a note in here that our nervous system cannot tell the difference between an imagined experience or a real experience, right? If you're feeling in your body danger, then you're just going to activate the danger zones in your body and it's going to think you're being attacked, right?
It's going to react as in you're being attacked, whether you feel danger because of just like a noise that you heard or literally because there's a lion in front of you. The reaction that's going to make you feel is going to be the same regardless of how big it actually is.
I seen, and also like in the health part, I seen, on my own mother, because she's always lived dysregulated, right, all her life. And I've had conversations with her about the nervous system and how important it is that she teach her techniques to calm down. I've seen that living so many years dysregulated, how it has affected her nervous system. Like she starts shaking now when she drinks like she could be drinking coffee and her mouth will start shaking like uncontrollably, her hands. And that is all I feel. I've told her, like, I feel that if you did some work on your nervous system and just calmed yourself, maybe some of those things can get alleviated, right? Because it's all connected there. If that's the command center, everything's rooted into the nervous system, right, of what's happening to us.
But it's those five senses that I was talking about. Well, it's five senses: the touch, the sight, the smell, and the hearing, the taste. All those things, everything that comes in through those, it goes into our command center, and then a reaction is going to come right out based on. But if you are on high alert and on survival mode, that's the reaction you're going to get back, right? So it's every day, all day long. Something is triggering it. Something is making it go off. However, if it's already on, that's doesn't matter what it is that's happening to you, you're just gonna react based on that. And so it's super important for everybody to be aware, because it's true. Like, I think about our parents, right? You're mentioning things about your mom, I start thinking about my mom, and like I start to really like think deeply, like, you know, I can see that she's been like on constant like chronic stress, or where she was like, there's no just emotional burnout for her, big time, right? Like, there was no always putting everybody else's needs ahead of hers, just emotionally drained, and just never being able to get out of that. And because she doesn't know these things, like being able to like regulate my mom would be just such a journey. But it makes me think, like, all these things that she feels, that there's constantly like weird pains, like weird sensations that she's constantly feeling, and it just doesn't make any sense. She goes to the doctor over and over and over, and they just can't find it. But it's like, imagine everything that she's dealt with because of her nervous system, because all the shit that she's just always dealt with. And to her, it's just normal. Like, this is just normal part of life. Like, I'm old already, so these things should be happening to me, but no,
Yeah, it's all connected. It's very, very, once you start getting deep into there, it's pretty interesting that what could happen when we live on survival mode all of our lives, right? Also, I wanted to touch on, like, we did touch on what the 4 nervous systems we have, which the first one is fight. And that one is activated, like you feel like you're in danger, you perceive some type of danger. Flight is you avoid. You numb, you avoid, numb. Freeze is you feel stuck or unable to move. And regulation, obviously, is when you feel balance. And we move between all of these all day long. We're not just in one or the other. We're constantly moving from one to another, right? But it's being mindful that we don't have to stay stuck in one, right? Okay, I've been dysregulated for like most of the day. Am I just gonna allow myself to go to bed dysregulated as well, right?
Yeah.
So being mindful that you could come back home at one point, you could come back to regulation, and knowing, like you were saying earlier, know your triggers. What dysregulates you? It could be simple things, right? Like, it could be as simple. I could give you some examples of what dysregulates me. What dysregulates me is when people are asking too much of me. That will immediately, it starts dysregulating me. Why? Because when I was a kid, I was the oldest daughter, and I had too much responsibility as a little girl. And now when somebody reminds me of that, or I get put in a situation that reminds me of the past, my nervous system begins to feel dysregulated, right? It could be as simple as your kids telling you, Mom, can you take me here? And then can you take me there? And then boom, you're dysregulated in that moment. That happens to me with that. When I'm being pulled in too many directions, when I'm not being heard, when I'm not being like heard or seen, that's another thing. Or when I'm trying to do many things at once, because I'm like so guilty of trying to use my time in many ways, right? Like I live where I work, so I will go in lunch and I'll clean my house and I'll do my dinner and I'll do laundry, and I'm just busy the whole hour of lunch, right? So I notice that by the end of the hour, I'm extremely dysregulated because I've just been on the go.
You tried touching upon everything.
So that everything can be done. So, and then I said, well, what if I slow down? What if, if I get to dinner, good. And if I don't, then I'll do it after work. So just giving myself that space, or if I see that I've already been dysregulated all morning, don't go and throw yourself more stuff on top, right? It's easier said than done, but giving yourself that compassion when you are dealing with dysregulation and knowing little things. They could be little things that dysregulate you. Somebody driving too fast in front of you, somebody driving too slow. Like being very mindful of the little things that just regulate you. It could be a tone. It could be a noise. It could be a place, something someone said.
Yeah.
But being very mindful of it.
Before the reaction.
Yes.
Before the reaction, and stopping the reaction. I think that really was helpful for me. There's an instance, I don't even know if I've said this before, but when Nando was putting dishes in the dishwasher, and he does this every time. I do not like to use the dishwasher at all whatsoever, but he likes to put things in the dishwasher. So every night he puts dishes in the dishwasher, well, whatever goes in there, and then the big stuff or the stuff that can go in there, I wash it. So I don't like to use it, but he always uses it every night. And so he was putting things in the dishwasher, and I was sitting there in the counter, and then he said something like, what did he say? How did he say it? He said, I don't think you he's like, I don't think you realize, no, he's like, you've never said thank you to me because I do this every day. You don't even appreciate it that I put these dishes in the dishwasher every day. And he said something like that, right? Something along those lines. And I just felt like a burst of like fire, it just exploded inside me, right? Like it was just a bomb just went off, because that immediately set me off. Like, I remember I was sitting down because of the whole day I had not been able to like work on my page for my business. And normally I always like to post something or do something, right? And so when I sit down, everyone's fed, everyone's done, everything's been done. I'm like, okay, nobody needs me right now. Let me take 35, 45 minutes to do something on my phone for my business, right? And so I was doing that when he said it, and it just made me feel so like, and another time I would have gone off and said something like, because what immediately right off that bat, I wanted to say like, really? And what about all the fucking dishes I wash every single day that are still there? What about everything I do? I clean the floors, I scrub the toilets, I did, like I wanted to and say, I don't get thanked for that. Why should, I wanted to say all of that. But I had to stop and really say, okay, it's not a moment. I know what was triggered inside of me. I know that my nervous system was like in state of like, you haven't done your to-do list, which is one of them. To-do list was to work on your page. You really needed to post something or send something or respond to clients. You haven't done that yet. And now this guy's like, that's telling you to like, what, everything was just overwhelming for me. So in that moment, I just had to stop and say, okay, he's not looking for a fight. He's not trying to fight you. He doesn't want an argument. He just wants to be appreciated. That's all he's asking for. So it might not be the best pitch. It might not be the best delivery. Yeah. But all he wanted to be in that moment was he just wants to be appreciated. That's him telling me, hey, can I get
appreciation?
A little bit of appreciation here, just even. So I had to stop my reaction and say no. Because I know that you have things to do, and this was just comes and just smacks you, and it makes me feel like, what? Like, what about me? Like, you know what I mean? And so I had to stop and see what it is that he's trying to convey. And so I just said, you know what? You're right. Like, thank you, And so he was kind of like, oh, right, there you go. Like, I don't know what he was expecting. I don't know if he was expecting a fight or not. He probably was like, ooh, I punked up air, but I was like, you're right. Thank you. But I have to admit that I kind of walked away and say, well, you still leave me a whole bunch of dishes, but thank you, Because my ego still had to get in the way, right?
Wants to be right.
Yeah.
But look at that part, right? Where how we get addicted to the familiar place, right? Like just a comment like that once tells your nervous system, oh, you're going to go fight. It's wartime.
Yes, exactly.
So just being how good that you were so mindful in that moment, that it's like no one's picking a fight with you. You're safe in this moment. He's looking for appreciation. Right? So it could have been said differently, like you said, but he said it in the best way he could in that moment.
That's
right?
exactly what I said. I said, this is how he knows. I don't and I didn't sit there and say like, hey, you could ask for it a different way. No, because I know that he knows what he knows, and that's what he's gonna. So I have to learn me, to understand. If he really wanted to pick a fight, we would have been fighting, right? If he really wanted to go there, but that's not what it was for. We were having a perfect normal conversation right before that, and he just said that. And in that moment I had to realize, literally stop time and say, what is it that he's telling you right now? Because he's not fighting. You need to calm down, because he's not trying to fight you, and that, because of my ego, because of my fight for everything, fight mode, I'm constantly felt like I have to defend myself for everything, and that's what's turned on my defense mechanism, defend yourself, and it's not needed.
And it's just coming back home in that moment, right? Understand, being mindful and saying, we're not fighting right now, but the nervous system goes to the familiar place. The nervous system just searches for data in the past and knows that this information somewhere in the past has led to a fight. So therefore, I need to be ready for a fight, right? The nervous system is just like the command center saying, hey, get ready for an attack. So it's being very mindful that's why I was saying how important it is to know your triggers. What triggers? Oh, I get triggered when people tell me what to do.
Yep.
When they don't know what I've done the whole day. When they don't appreciate me, little things, little things, being mindful of our triggers, being mindful that, yes, your nervous system will automatically go to the familiar place because you've done it over and over and over and over for years. So it just is what it knows. It doesn't go from you being given a trigger. His first familiar place is not regulation. It's dysregulation. So it's understanding that what your familiar place is, and that you could come back and train your nervous system to have a healthier familiar place, right?
Yeah.
Also understanding that there is also discomfort in regulation. You will feel weird when you're always regulated, right? It feels like, why am I feeling so calm all the time, right? Because it's new.
Yeah.
It's not your norm. It's not what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's funny. My sister just did this. She's one that goes, Monica. She's on the go. She's not on the go. She feels super uncomfortable. Like, what's wrong with me? Why? I should be doing something. And this last Sunday or Saturday, I don't remember, she was there at the house too. The longest I've ever watched her sit down on my table without moving. It was the weirdest thing for me to see that. But she did comment about that. She did say, I feel like I should be doing something. Like, I feel like if my time is not taken up by something, what am I doing? I'm being lazy. I'm wasting time. You know what I mean? Because that's where your mind wants to go right away. And she had to really tell herself, no, you're going to stay here, and I'm calm and relaxed. I don't need to be anywhere. I don't need to do anything. There's just no need. But it does make you feel uncomfortable. You feel lazy. The word lazy is probably going to kick in. The word useless is probably going to kick in. To waste of time is probably going to kick in. Why aren't you worried? Why aren't you stressed? Why aren't you going? You should be doing things. And that's my thing. If I have an hour where I don't have nothing planned, I'm trying to fill it with something. Because if I don't fill it with something, the expectation of the feeling of shame or feeling guilty because I'm not doing something, it's kicking in. So I'm constantly fighting that, where it's no, I don't have to. These expectations, these unrealistic expectations that we set on ourselves, it's just my nervous system saying, this is how we've lived this whole time. This is how you survive. This is what I saw my mom be, She is learning now that she doesn't have to fill her time with something to do every 5, 10, 20 minutes or an hour. It doesn't have to be filled in with something. It's those are the moments that you should take for yourself to calm yourself, to bring yourself back down to that place of relax, of rejuvenated, of, where your nervous system can be balanced again.
And giving ourselves permission, right? Like you said, it's really hard to do that when we've been programmed to just be on the go. I feel like a lot of the things that helped me because I had that problem a lot. It's gotten way better now, but I had the problem where if I was doing nothing, I was like, this feels weird. I felt uncomfortable. Like you said, I was trying to fill it with another project, just on the go. I feel like at this point, that has gone a lot better for me. Last year, I was still battling with it pretty strongly. This year, it's been much better. But what I began telling myself is like, it's safe for you to rest. It's okay for you to do nothing. It's okay. You're an adult now. What happens is that when we are dysregulated, we become kids again. So we're thinking our nervous system thinks it's in the past, because when we were kids and they would see us resting, what would we be told? You're lazy. There's plenty of chores to do. Get up, like all these things, right? So now as an adult, our nervous system's like, shouldn't you be doing something? You're going to be told that you're lazy if you're not moving, right? So it's like giving ourselves that permission that it's okay to do nothing and to rest, and that you're an adult now, that you're safe now, that no one's going to criticize you or judge you. Like, it's your home. You can move as you want to, but continuing to tell yourself that so that you can continue to come back to the present moment, because or else we'll get attacked by the thoughts, and
people will. I mean, and people will might judge you. I mean, they might, but that you have to like go back and think, oh, well, that's how you perceive things, because the same thing, they also thought the same thing. They were also raised with the same thoughts. They were also going through the same survival mode dysfunction, and so it's the same thing. So not being not allowing your judge in your head to judge you, but a same thing, not allowing other people to judge you.
Yes, definitely. That's super important. So as we get close to closing, I did want to touch a little bit on as a few signs of, just as a reminder of when the dysregulation's happening and when you're regulated. Well, some signs of when you're dysregulated is your eyes can twitch. You feel overwhelmed. You will start many projects and accomplish nothing because you're touching everything. You feel or you think you're always in danger. Like you could be driving and you feel like, oh my God, something's going to happen. Like you're just panicking or feeling like in danger all the time. You begin breathing faster or feeling out of breath. You feel a lot of energy built in your stomach, like butterfly feelings, like anxious in your stomach. Overly emotionally, like overly crying or just overly emotional. You're reactive, irritated, very defensive. You could also feel very sad, abandoned, not seen, not heard. Going back to your primary emotions as a child, like when we were kids, how we felt as when we were children. Or you could also feel like you just been. You could also be like in bed for days or weeks and just feel like you don't want to be social in any way or do anything at all. Those are some signs of being dysregulated, and some signs that you are regulated is you can feel calm, relaxed, your breathing goes back to normal. You don't feel like you have to be moving and doing all these things. Some of the things that I go through when I'm regulated is I yawn a lot. I'll start yawning a lot. I feel like sleepy, like because my body's like relaxing. You just feel calm, right? You can handle anything that's coming in your way in such a more healthier way. Your breathing goes back to normal. Your heart rate goes back to normal. You feel safe. You speak softer. That's one of the things I've noticed. And your body softens, because when you're dysregulated, your body tenses up. Like for me, my jaws, I tighten my jaw.
I'm always clenching my jaw, and it's painful.
Me too. And I started like about 2 weeks ago, I started being more mindful when I'm doing it. So I've been catching myself that my jaw is just very tight. So I start telling myself, you're safe. It's okay to let go and just breathe. Breathing helps so much to come back to the present moment. I don't know if you want to share a few ways that somebody can come back into regulation when they're very dysregulated, and then I could share a couple that I do myself.
Well, I think for sure, we have to practice like compassion, right? Because we have to understand first and foremost that our nervous system is here to definitely protect us. It's not here to punish us or make us feel crappy or anything like that, right? It's protecting us. That's what it's meant to do. That's what it's for. And just being really compassionate about everything that we've dealt with. Have compassion for yourself, for everything that you've experienced, all the trauma, all the stress, the emotional burnout, everything. Just tell yourself, like Divi says, that you're safe, that you're okay, that that you need to keep telling yourself so your nervous system can hear you, can feel it. I definitely do think that incorporating things like breathing, like Divi says, meditating, movement, grounding techniques, anything that can be like taking a walk outside and nature. One of the things that we learned with my daughter, the younger one, because I have her, she deals with anxiety, and so I feel that learning about the nervous system, I can see how it's affected her, so I could see things now. But one thing that we learned together was the technique, which is like when you're feeling super overwhelmed or in that state, is they told us to do look for 5 things that you can see, right? It's like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things that you can see. So say things, look at 5 things and say them out loud. 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, right? 3 things that you can touch, that you can actually feel, 2 things that you can smell, right? And then I think it's 1 thing that you can taste. So it's just going back to our senses and putting them to work. That's a perfect grounding technique that was taught to me, and I've used it just last week because I was having a major anxiety attack right before I had to do some assessment thing that I was panicking about. But it just made me super sick, where I was starting to feel nauseous, like physically nauseous. And so that's how nervous I was. And so I did that technique. I literally sat in my car and I did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, things. And I started noticing how my breathing just started to relax more, because I was starting to get really shallow breaths, and just, I felt more at ease, right? Because you're basically telling your senses like, hey, go to work. But like at the same time, now are you telling them you're going to go to work, but you're being present, because you are looking for 5 things that you can see. You are trying to hear 4 different sounds, so you're grounding. That's a grounding technique, 3 things that you can touch, like you can literally physically touch. Again, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste in that moment, right? So that's a perfect grounding technique that I've done myself, that my daughter's learning as well. And I can tell you that it definitely helps me to bring me back to here, to the present, and it starts to definitely calm my heart rate.
Yeah, that's a perfect one, definitely, because you're kind of signaling to your body that you're safe. Some of the things that I use till this day is mantras, like I am safe. Like I kept repeating that to myself. I am safe in this moment. I'm okay. If it gets severe, what I'll do is I'll look at, like, you have to look for exits, like, oh, there's the door, you can exit through the door, there's the window. Deep breaths are huge. Taking deep breaths, coming back to your heart, putting a hand in your heart and taking deep breaths. That's something that I do. One of the ones that I do a lot is I have an exercise with my eyes, like when I'm severely overwhelmed, is you look straight, right? You're looking straight, and then just with your eyes, you move all the way back to the right first, all the way as much as you can take your eyes all the way back, and then you bring them back to center, and then you do it with the left eye as well and bring it back to center. You could do that 1 or 2 times, and what that does is resets the nervous system as you're doing that. And that's one that I use a lot when I'm like extremely overwhelmed. Sound, you know, bringing stillness, meditation. Journaling is another one that helps me a lot, especially sound. If my mind is just racing and I feel dysregulated, if you watch TV or anything else, it's only going to add more. Sound, like sitting somewhere quiet 10 minutes with headphones with meditation music or anything that can help you ground. I do love to walk barefoot on grass. That's like one of my favorite things. Hugging a tree is huge as well when you're dysregulated. And one last one is that helps me. Hugging someone that you feel safe with. Usually when I'm really overwhelmed, or I have a lot of emotional baggage, if I hug my husband, like he'll notice that I'm like overwhelmed. He'll come home and he sees and he just hugs me, and immediately I start crying. My body starts releasing because it feels safe with him, and that's a sign. You're releasing tears. It's a sign that your body's trying to regulate. So those are some of the things that I use till this day, every day, something, because obviously we move through all these from fight or flight and being balanced. We move from it all the time. I also would advise that you do chakra work. That was actually the first thing I ever did to begin regulating. I feel that without the process of doing chakra work, it would have been a little bit more difficult for me. So learning about the chakra system, maybe we can have an episode just on chakras in itself, because that's a huge, also good topic to talk about. So balancing your chakras is good energy work. Anything that can assist you that feels good and safe for you. That's what we recommend.
But man, if this this was great. I think if any listeners that weren't so aware of how your nervous system works for you, but can also leave you in a state of fight, freeze, or fight, flight, or freeze mode, and you're not realizing, you're just thinking, again, like me, it's just a label you put on yourself. This is just who you are. This is just your personality. No, it's not. It really isn't. And just becoming more aware of that, and then just learn about it and see where it can relate, where you can see yourself fall into. And then maybe you guys can take some of these, ideas of how you can help yourself and regulate yourself. But more than anything, just the awareness of how you react to certain things, what your body does. So then you can stop reacting in ways that can possibly be hurtful for you or hurt others. And it has nothing to do with you being that person. Like, that's just who I am, because it's not just who you are. There's just an imbalance there, and all it needs is to be brought back to balance.
And information is light, right? Grab a book on the nervous system if this is something that calls you. Educate yourself on YouTube. There's thousands of videos about the nervous system. Great books out there to teach you. Great meditations on YouTube. If you just research heal the nervous system, you can begin there. Those are some things that I forgot to mention earlier that I used. A good book, good meditations on healing the nervous system, and just educate yourself on YouTube, on videos. What is it? And trust me, like, it makes a life change when you go down that road.
Yes, it does. So, thank you guys to anyone and everyone who's still listening at this point. We hope that it was helpful, that you guys can take something back with you. And that's all we want, is to be able to connect and help and keep learning, because that's what we're doing too.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you to all our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.